TNT Radio Network Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. And every Monday, I'm the recurring guest on that show. And so I definitely recommend y'all check out Misty's fantastic show. Other than myself, she always has on a variety of guests. It's not always, people on the left. She has on libertarians like Reed Coverdale, Clint Russell, and Scott Horton. So I think everybody would definitely like her show, and almost all of her coverage is focused on anti-empire. Now, want to mention here that this show, Misty could be found at Sarcasm Stardust on Twitter, where she's very active. You can find this show on the Libertarian Institute, on the blog at antiwar.com, YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey for the video version of the show. I'm on Twitter at KyleAnSloan_, and you could donate to the show at Patreon, Subscribestar, or through crypto. All that information in the show notes page. Last up is the sponsor of the show, Paloma Verde, PalomaVerdeCBD.com. Promo code PEACE. That will save you 20% off when you spend $75 or more, and it gets the show a kickback. So you're going to get your high quality CBD at a good price, and you're going to be able to support the show. If you're already a CBD user, I think they probably got everything that you already take at Paloma Verde, so very easy to switch over. And again, you can check the lab test results right there on their website to ensure that you're getting the absolutely highest quality in CBD products. If you're new to CBD, I gotta recommend the Sports Drink. This stuff is great. It has a nice menthol smell, no funky smells like over-the-counter products. It's just a lotion and no icy hot feelings or anything like that. It works quick and a long time. So, Sports Drink at Paloma Verde, PalomaVerdeCBD.com. Promo code PEACE, and here's the interview with Misty. Hey Misty, how's it going? Welcome to Conflicts of Interest. Very excited to have you on. We've talked a whole bunch. I'm on your show all the time, but I got you on the show today, and very important time. This is a lot of important Assange news today. Maybe Misty, start with just tell my audience a little bit about yourself and why you're so passionate about the Julian Assange issue, and then we can talk about kind of his current legal status and what we can all do to help him out.
The most recent round of shenanigans is, Assange had in January of 2020, Judge Vanessa Bratzer ruled against the extradition based on his mental health and the oppressiveness of the United States prison system. And then that went into the United States appealing that, offering their quote-unquote assurances that they promised Kyle they're going to be super nice to Assange. They promise if he's here, they're going to be nice. And then so they were able to get that appeal. And then obviously the Assange team went back at them. Now, just recently, the Assange defense team has submitted an appeal to the Supreme Court. Basically, they submitted a request for an appeal to be heard, and that was denied. So the Supreme Court decided that it was not an important enough case for them to hear the appeal in the Supreme Court. So that was denied. And so that now means that recently the extradition request was sent back to the district courts. Which was just basically a formality. It was kind of just like a procedural thing, and they just had to sign off on it. And then it went to, as I said, the desk of the UK Home Secretary, Priti Patel. So that's where the extradition request is as of now. The defense team has until tomorrow to make submissions to her, which basically they're just trying to appeal to her better senses if she has any, which I doubt. She's very corrupt. But they're trying to just basically appeal to her to, make her see that this should be denied. I'm not going to lie, it's not looking good. So that is the deadline for that is tomorrow, and then we will get a decision at some point following that, which we don't have any timeline or anything like that. We have no idea when that decision will come down or really what happens next. I mean, we're all kind of living in limbo right now.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, that's, I guess, one of the hard things where it seems like it's not going to go well. But the first judge, Baretzer, did make, I think, kind of an unexpected ruling that his mental health was so severe that she denied extradition. And so maybe something like that could happen now. Is this a point where Americans really can't do anything because this is the UK court system, or can Americans get involved here and do a little bit of something?
Absolutely, you can always get involved. Are you kidding? Always. You can always get. I'm annoying. Be annoying. We have to. We have to be annoying. So right now, it is in the hands of the UK Home Secretary. But Americans can call Priti Patel. You can totally call Priti Patel. You can send her an email. You can tweet at her. We need mass public pressure. You can also call the Department of Justice. And request or demand, as I like to say, that they just drop the charges. It's a ridiculous case file. None of it makes any sense, and any tiny semblance of a case that they ever had has completely disintegrated over the past year. There's been a multitude of exposures, and one of the key witness admitted to fabricating his testimony. A lot of stuff has really blown up over the last year. So it is a ridiculous case, and the idea, honestly, that Priti Patel or the UK government is considering extraditing this man to a country that was recently revealed to be plotting to murder him is absurd. I don't know why this is even a consideration. It's mind-boggling to me. But here we are. This is where we are. So yeah, you can get involved. You can call the White House comment line. You can leave a comment there. You can call. I'm putting some pressure on Amnesty International right now because they have still yet to designate Julian Assange as a prisoner of conscience, which is absurd. I don't know if there's ever been a more clear-cut case. So yeah, you can make phone calls, you can send emails, you can write letters, you can tweet at people. But really, one of the biggest things that people can do is just talk to other people. Mainstream media doesn't touch this case. Nobody covers it. Nobody talks about it. And when they do, it's they're smearing him, or they're giving misinformation. They're telling the story wrong. This is a really misunderstood case. Julian Assange is a really misunderstood person. Not to say that he's perfect, but I mean, most of the things that people believe about Julian Assange are entirely wrong. So, I mean, just having those conversations with people in your real life, explaining to them what's happening and why it affects you. Because this, I mean, don't get it twisted. This affects all of us. This is not just about Julian Assange. This is, this really does change the face of press freedom forever. And I honestly don't know how we come back from it.
Yeah. No, I really think that this is our ability to tell the truth that's online. People say the First Amendment, and it's not that you won't have the freedom to speak about 90% of the things that you want. No matter what, they're going to let you have your opinion on Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. They're never going to really censor that. But what they will censor are, leaks of important information. I mean, remember back to 2016 CNN talking about how, nobody could look at the DNCCC WikiLeaks emails because, that's not supposed to be seen by anybody but the media. And so we will lose a lot of truth if Assange loses here. Now, I guess not to take too much pressure off of the current situation, but my understanding is that there has never been an appeal or argument in the UK court system related to the initial judge's ruling actually saying that Assange violated the law and should be extradited to the United States. All the arguments have been around his mental health, which, I mean, I can't imagine having my mental health like that on display for everybody and for people to all have such opinionated takes about it and how you're really not that ill and things like that. It must be very difficult for Assange to be going through all of this. And so you have to wonder maybe if they let this whole thing play out just to bring to light his mental health issues and make that more about that. But anyways, does it seem like what to appeal the initial ruling that he broke a law, which clearly he did. Assange is actually on trial for is publishing documents. If you listen, as you say, if you listen to the mainstream news, they'll start with Julian Assange, who's been wanted for sexual abuse allegations for 12 years, blah 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 blah, which has nothing to do with anything for why he's on trial, and also all false anyways. But there is still more appeals to come here, right?
I would hope so. A really quick note on what you just said about his mental health not all being on display. It's the height of just ridiculousness. In October, I think it was the 27th, there was 2 days of court, which Julian Assange hasn't been allowed to physically attend his own hearings since like January 2020, I think. So he requests to appear in person, and they always deny that request. So if he is allowed to attend, it's always via video link from Belmarsh. And in the October hearings, they were literally in court. The prosecutors were talking about how Julian Assange is a malingerer and he's faking it, and he's not that ill, and he's just, this is all, like, he's just being overly dramatic. He doesn't want to face consequences. And as he's sitting there watching them talk about how he's faking it on video link, he's literally having a mini stroke. I have to laugh because it's so absurd. It's so absurd. But yeah, to me, that's such an important thing, like, that people need. This is what he's dealing with. You know what I mean? Like, he has to have all of this stuff put on full display. They're calling him a faker as he's having a mini stroke. It's all just very absurd. But to your point about the potential of an appeal, I would hope so. I mean, I'm not a part of the legal team. I'm not, like, in those conversations at all. But to me, it seems like that is, I mean, obviously right now they've been focused on just trying to save Julian's life, which fair. But there is a lot that has yet to be discussed. All of the press freedom and free speech aspects of this case have been kind of put on the back burner as his mental health issues have been played out in the court system. So I'm very hopeful that they will go back and appeal those things. I would say almost for sure they will. But I don't know. I honestly don't know how that works. I'm unfortunately very familiar with the UK legal system, but I'm not an expert, so I'm not sure how that works. If Priti Patel rules on the extradition, can they extradite him to the United States, and then the appeals will go through, or do they have to keep him there? I'm not sure. So I'm hoping to get somebody from the legal team or somebody who's more familiar with the legal system and have a conversation with them to figure out how all of this is going to play out from here. Because it's all very complicated, and it seems as if, I mean, we know that what they're doing right now is just trying to drag this out for as long as possible. And interestingly enough, Julian Assange leaked that information, the Stratfor leak. There's an email in there where they're having a conversation about how to deal with Julian Assange. And one of the ways in which they had planned to deal with him was to just drag him through legal stuff for 25 years. And here we are. So I'm hopeful that there will be those appeals. There's also a potential that they could appeal to the European Court of Human Rights. But I don't know what the next play is for the legal team. They generally keep that stuff pretty close to the vest. I don't think they want to, like, let their next move be known, which I understand. But I'm curious what the next move is going to be after Priti Patel comes down with her decision.
Yeah. And now you mentioned his appearances at court and everything like that. And, one thing that I just have seen and heard from is that this whole experience has been incredibly dehumanizing for Assange. Anytime they move him in prison, they're doing, like, strip searches. He's isolated most of the time. Now I understand that some of that is because of COVID protocols, and everything like. But still, it's to put a human being through that again for just publishing, information from our governments is crazy. But also likely going to have some long-term effects on Assange, and as you mentioned, he had a mini stroke. Those things, do have long-term effects. Even hopefully, mini stroke means fairly minor, but still, who knows what kind of care he's getting in the UK prison system? It's probably not as good as that you should be getting. Yeah, and I guess one more thing on the mental health issue. One thing I've been really disappointed with is I do feel like there is definitely a movement in the United States on a very positive front on mental health to destigmatize, to make it more mainstream, and just write some of this down. And if you listen to the arguments that were made by the British defense team, it was almost like listening to people talk about autism in the United States in 1990. It was shocking. It would be like if people were saying, well, I know Tony and Fred are gay and they want to live together, and I like Tony and Fred, but if we split gays get married, then the next thing you know, Joe's gonna try and marry his duck and Phil's gonna marry his goat, and so we can't let this happen. And that's essentially the level of argument they're making about Assange's mental health. It's quite shocking, and I haven't seen any pushback from like the mental health community in the United States. Is he really all that sick, or is he, a malingerer or whatever? And I don't know. He's been a subject of psychological torture for over a decade. That's not me saying that. That's the former UN Special Rapporteur on Torture saying that. He's been examined by multiple doctors. They all say the same thing. It's very clear that he is a victim of torture. And I don't know how anybody lives through being subjected to over a decade of psychological torture and comes out of that okay. I just don't. That's not possible. There's no question that he is,
jail. He sought asylum, which is his legal right to do. The bail jumping thing was only 50 weeks, Kyle. He was given almost a full, 53 weeks is the full term that you could get for that, and they gave him almost that. But that's been over for some time now, and he has been held on remand every minute since then, just because the U.S. says so. So he is somebody who has zero violence in his history. He's one of the most recognizable people on planet Earth. We're in the middle of a global pandemic where most things have been locked down, and for some reason you can't put him on house arrest.
To do any of this stuff.
No.
Yeah.
No, and what this means then is that anybody anywhere is subject to being extradited to another country because you published or printed or tweeted something that somebody doesn't like. And this, I mean, really, we try to, point fingers at Russia or China or, Azerbaijan. There was the great interview with the BBC reporter where they went after the president of Azerbaijan for the treatment of journalists there. And he's like, oh, really? How about Assange? You know what I mean? And that's the Assange precedent. They're setting an unbelievably dangerous precedent here that authoritarians all over the world are going to use to justify their treatment of journalists. It really is, it's an unbelievable precedent that's being set here. It's really terrifying, the level that this has gotten to. I cannot believe it's gotten this far. I really cannot. Given the fact that they had a very flimsy case to begin with, and then the case that they did have, as you said, Ziggy Thorderson came out and admitted to fabricating his testimony in exchange for immunity from the Assange for one reason or another. Most people that I talk to either have never heard of him or they hate him, but they can't articulate why. And that's because so much I've never seen so much time, energy, and resources poured into destroying the character of one person. It's fascinating if you go back and watch and look at all of the different ways that they propagandize people against Julian Assange for whatever reasons that they come up with. But that's all been intentional because they know that they need the public to go along with this. They need people to hate him so that they can justify the treatment that he's receiving. And unfortunately, it's been really effective. And most people don't care. They're not paying attention. They don't know. I think a lot of people are really, really blind to how this impacts them in a very real way. I think a lot of people, free speech and press freedom is kind of an abstract concept. It's not something that like hits you in the face every day. It's not like, oh, I can't feed my kids, or hey, I can't afford to go to the doctor. So most people are paying attention to what they're
No, I really agree with you. And one of the things here is I remember when Assange first had the big leak. I was in high school, and the Republicans hated him. Oh man, they hated him, and the Democrats liked WikiLeaks, and that was the status quo for years and years. And Obama was supposed to prosecute and look into WikiLeaks, and he didn't, which was interesting. And what they said the reason was the New York Times problem, which was if you prosecute Assange, you could prosecute New York Times because they do the same thing. And we have this really crazy thing happening in the Biden administration where Biden explicitly ran on being anti-Trump, and his policies have been far closer to Trump's than Obama's on almost everything. If you look at immigration, if you look at Iran, Venezuela, Russia, Cuba, all those policies have almost matched Trump when he reversed Obama's policies on all those issues. And I'm sure I could think of like 5 or 6 other domestic issues as well, where he's essentially kept the Trump policy, reversing what Obama had done. And it's just incredible, I guess, that nobody is picking up on this and realizing this, and especially on issues like Assange, where you would think the left would maybe start to come back. Well, the Democrats would start to come back and support free speech and everything, but it seems like they have been weaponized against free speech and are 100% against it at this point. And like you say, even if they don't know exactly why they hate Assange, they know they hate Assange. And so he's a man with not many political allies in the world empire, and that's a very dangerous position to be in now.
That's because he doesn't play teams, Kyle, and that's why I like him. He, as you said, he exposed Republicans, he's exposed Democrats, and that's why Democrats hate him. Let's be honest, they hate him because he exposed Hillary Clinton. And that's just, you can't do that. I don't think Democrats will ever get over that. It's unfortunate that they have that kind of cult mentality, but that's the reality of the situation. And you're right, when he exposed George W. Bush and the war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan, he did a TED Talk, and he got a standing ovation in a room full of liberals. And now they hate him. But the reason why they hate him is, again, because he doesn't play teams. He doesn't have a political favorite. Like, people keep trying to say that he helped Russia get Trump elected or whatever. He compared the choice between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump between choosing between cholera and gonorrhea. He's not a Trump fan. You know what I mean? Like, Trump had him arrested. People will still try to say that. And, like, really, he helped Trump get elected and then Trump had him arrested? Like, that seems like a really crappy deal that he got there. Again, it just goes back to the propaganda and the smear campaign, and everybody hates Julian, but they don't understand why. And it's because they've been told over, the course of the past 12 years, a multitude of different stories, that none of which, very little of it is true. And he's made some really powerful enemies all over the globe. It's not just the United States that he's made angry. He's exposed governments, including Russia. He's exposed governments all across the globe, not just governments, but also corporations. He's exposed a ton of corporate corruption. And so, yes, he has made a lot of very powerful, very wealthy people very angry, and that's why he's being treated the way that he is.
Yeah, no, Greg Palisades done some great work with documents that Assange exposed on like oil leaks and the BP oil leak in the Gulf and all of that. So it's again amazing that the Green movement can't find a little sympathy in their hearts for Julian Assange, because hell, if he had spent the past 12 years being a free man and working, he may have exposed a lot more of this garbage where corporations
say that all the time.
Destroying the environment, doing all kinds of stuff.
Imagine what we would know if Julian Assange were free right now. Imagine what we would know. And that's why, we need 1,000 WikiLeaks across the globe. Journalism should be what WikiLeaks does. I don't mean that like to disparage other journalism, because I mean I love journalists. But what WikiLeaks does is it's not opinion, it's not conjecture, it's not some talking head yelling at some other talking head. It's 100% verifiable, authenticated source documentation. Period. It's just the truth in black and white. Here it is. You read it. You decide what you think about it. And to me, that's an invaluable service because, powerful people don't like their secrets exposed, and Julian Assange exposes their secrets. And we should all be cheering for that. It's very strange to me that people are not cheering for that. But yeah, it's really unfortunate and it's very frustrating to me that people can't remove whatever personal feelings they have about it's not about Julian Assange. It's not about whether or not he's a nice guy or whether or not he feeds his cat or whether or not none of that stuff is relevant at all. It's not relevant at all. It's completely removed from the bigger picture that this is the greatest attack on press freedom that we have ever seen. And it doesn't matter if, I say it all the time, Julian Assange could be the worst person on planet Earth and I would still be fighting against what's happening to him because it's wrong and it's scary and it's dangerous and it sets a really unbelievable precedent moving forward. That I honestly, I do not know how we come back from that. Once you lose these rights, you don't get them back. You just don't.
Yeah, no, especially not in the U.S., that's not the way it's really ever worked, is that you're going to get some freedoms back that were once promised. So, Misty, anything else on Assange? Or I would love to hear a little bit about Leonard, who I know you've been campaigning for the past couple of weeks, and I'm almost completely unfamiliar with.
Again, just however you can get involved, please do. We're not going to get, legal recourse here. We can't appeal to Joe Biden's better angels. He doesn't have any. The only thing that stops this is mass public pressure. That's it. We have to make it politically untenable for them to continue this persecution, period. And the only way we do that is by people getting really loud. Whatever, everybody can get involved somehow. Again, you can make phone calls, you can send tweets, you can send emails, you can write letters to your editor of your local newspapers, protest, go out and protest. All it takes is a poster board, a Sharpie, and a sidewalk. That's it. We really need help. It's a really difficult task because, again, the mainstream media has almost completely blacked everything out on this case. So it's really hard to kind of break through that. I can tell you that even on Twitter, my Assange tweets are heavily shadow banned. Any videos you do, like if you don't put Assange in the title, Kyle, don't do it because it will be shadow banned. It's just really hard. We just need help getting the information out, and we need help making noise because that's the only thing that's going to stop this thing.
Thank you, Misty. Anything on Leonard real quick?
Yeah. So Leonard Peltier, for anybody who is not familiar, was a member of AIM, which was the American Indian movement. Started in like the late 60s, early 70s. It was basically just I hate saying Indian. And Leonard himself identified he says, I'm an Indian. So I feel okay, I feel comfortable, but you know how it is. People get really up in arms about certain phrases or terms that you use. So Native American, Indian, whatever. So it was just the Native American movement that, was just trying to push back against the theft of land and the, complete neglect of following through on treaties that we had signed, all of the oppression in terms of police brutality that Natives faced, all of that stuff. So AIM was kind of that thing that formed from that. And Leonard was a member of that, and he was on Pine Ridge Reservation. They had the people that lived there were suspecting of like some targeting of local cops and stuff like that. So they had asked Leonard and a couple other people to come stay on the reservation as like a security measure. And 2 FBI agents followed a truck onto the reservation, and we don't really know for sure what happened from there. There's a bunch of different stories. I don't think we'll ever know the truth, but there was a shootout that took place. The 2 FBI agents were killed as well as a fellow AIM member. And Leonard was essentially the fall guy for this. He was arrested in 1976, I think, and then tried and convicted in 1977. He's been in prison ever since. The trial was pretty suspect. The investigation was very suspect. Since he's been convicted. A lot of information has come out through FOIA requests and a bunch of other stuff. 3 teenagers that testified against him have come forward and said that they were essentially coerced into testifying against him. A bunch of stuff. Like, there's really just a ton of really suspicious circumstances surrounding the investigation, the trial, the conviction, all of that stuff. He has been fighting ever since, at first for a new trial. I think that given the amount of information that has come out, like the casing, that one of the casings was shown to not have come from the gun that they claimed that Leonard had. There's just a lot that has really come out to exonerate him. So he tried fighting for a new trial. It's really difficult in the United States legal system to get a new trial. Once you've been convicted, it's pretty much it, because you're essentially asking the courts to admit that they were wrong. They don't like to do that. So, but Leonard now is in his late 70s. His health is failing. He's dealing with a lot of health issues. Earlier this year, I think late January, early February, he was diagnosed with COVID. And he's really having a difficult time. So, we're sending him out. We want him to go home to his family and spend the remainder of his year in Haiti. He's a brilliant artist. But yeah, there's, I mean, it's, you know, there's not a lot of good stuff going on. But listen, I am a cynic, but I still, if I didn't have like a tiny bit of choice in my own life at heart, I wouldn't do what I do. I mean, the fact that the fight between Enzo and Angle doesn't mean that it's the fight of the media, the fight partner. So again, I encourage everybody to get involved in the dog movement, and maybe look into a host dinner, and maybe look into Pretty Big Volcano, all really good things. Yeah, however you can get involved, keep your phone on Twitter and constantly tweeting different aspects of the Simpsons story, whether it's from home, emails, all that good stuff. So I'm at Sarcasm Stardust on Twitter. And then like Kyle said, I host a show on CAC Radio Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. And Kyle's on there every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I talk to a lot of the universe Tuesdays, especially Tuesdays. I had one of my, I have a show called One of My Schools that I live in an echo chamber. So like 300 people watch my show, and the next day where I had a libertarian, a lefty, and a conservative all on one show. So I talk about memes, you know, about a wide variety of topics. So you can check that out on CAC Radio. It's a relatively new platform for me. We don't get it. It's great. So you and CAC. But yeah, you can check me out there Monday through Friday.
Except for last night when Chuck was I've said it once, and George, I don't know now. Works just, you know, share, won't it? Official boys only episode, and those are the favorites of the audience. Also, I will say this: the majority of the crew is flown out here once again by the Hard Rock because they're incredible. The hotel is beautiful. It's in a great location. The rooms are stunning. The rooms are stunning. Amazing, amazing hotel. Shout out to the Hard Rock, New York City. If you come to New York, stay at the Hard Rock. Oh. So I got a new place that kind of parlays into the embarrassing story that I have for you guys, and I've waited for Impulse because you guys are gonna roast the out of me. I got a new place in Arizona. I was close to my mom and dad. I want to move back to the city. Still having my place in LA, just going back and forth. I'm excited. This place that I have has a rooftop that is unbelievable. So I'm walking around, I'm super happy, asking people, hey, do you like living here? They're like, oh, look at this place. And another person like, yeah. And then I went up to this guy, laying down, holding his phone like this, like staring at me uncomfortably. And I was like, oh, maybe he's sad I didn't ask him. So I walked up to him and I said, sir, how do you like living here? And he goes, and I thought he's deaf. Okay. So I go, like a normal human being, I signed to him, hello, my name is George Janko. And he goes, dude, I'm on the phone, what the fuck do you want? I was like, oh my God. So I'm just sitting there like, and he's like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then my whole family's right there, and they look at me, they go, did you just sign to a guy that's on his phone with AirPods on? And I was like,
You're a dumbass, Georgie.
but no, you're not.
Because you know sign language. Also, do you know sign language?
I did. So I was in resource class growing up, and the kid next to me, I would talk to everybody, and he was deaf, and I felt like he felt left out, so I learned how to sign so I could talk to him too.
You're the nicest human being.
You are.
Except for last night when you tried to assault me on the roof.
I say one
I mean,
time,
George, I gotta
I'ma
call you
slap
out.
the shit out of you, and
I mean, it's
everybody
just-
crumbles.
Well, it's just, you know,
You threw a steel chair at Logan.
We have a different relationship.
Steel fucking
We have a
chair.
different
Bro, a
relationship.
steel fucking chair.
George.
He goes, bro, if you hit Mike, you're out. I go, what the fuck?
I did not
This guy
say that.
stabbed you in the back on fucking
I didn't know we were gonna go
Mama's
there.
basement. But I can't smack somebody? What kind of fucking boxer?
I'll tell you why, I'll say it again. Because you told me, you said, I'm gonna smack the shit out of Mike. I said, if you incite violence towards anyone on this team, you're out.
Again, you do that, you're out. I go, I'm so replaceable.
No, and that's the story. He came to me. He came to my room when we talked. He was like, man, he's like, I don't like this idea that I can just be taken off. I go, George, we can't have another co-host drunk with a third co-host. I don't think the audience would do that again, bro. We've already bullied 6 co-hosts on the show. We can't do it again, so you're stuck, bro. I don't give a fuck if you hit me with a hammer. You're on the show.
That's what I
bro.
thought. That's why I thought it was okay to slap.
No,
You know
it's We have just come off a 10-day sorry to all the I don't really love the idea of people being outside the door knocking. Hey, I gotta get in, I gotta shit. Like, it's just too much going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This specific girl, bro. I met her in Vegas when she had a So, this girl comes out of the What is your reaction to that? Like, do you fall on the ground? Like, do you just fall out and start dying laughing?
I can't even picture. I don't know. Was everybody looking at you when she did that?
No, it was not like, it was a loud party. There was a lot going on, but, so, anyways, so I get this story the next day from this kid, and I do fuck with this girl. Like, she's a cool girl. And she hits me up the next day, and she goes, that was fucked up. You just left me there in the bathroom. And, bro, immediately, my manipulative, chess-playing mind went to work, and I said,
all the way back here.
I didn't know if you had, like, a guy that you were talking to at the party, or, like, or if you were the type of the girl that wanted to be seen coming out of the bathroom with a guy. Like, out of respect for you, like, I just wanted to make sure that we left the bathroom separately. And this is me. And she goes,
She did 3 bubbles.
she goes, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was just being dramatic. And I was like, it's
Oh,
complete. I was like, it's completely.
What if she watches this podcast?
She's going to.
It's
And by the way,
great.
it's great. By the way,
Great girl.
top 3 head. Like, fucking fantastic.
This episode is sponsored by Ridge Wallet.
Oh, there's no
Look
shot.
at this thing, it's great.
It's not possible.
It is.
No.
It holds up to 12 cards plus room for cash. No reason to have a traditional wallet anymore because Slim is in. Get yourself a Ridge Wallet. Click the link in the description. Use the code Impulsive for 10% off your order. The Ridge team is so confident that you'll like it, they'll let you test drive it for 45 days. You can send it back for a full refund if you don't love it. That's code Impulsive for 10% off your order. Thank you, Ridge Wallet. Now back to the show.
Fantastic. Definitely watch his caller down. 100%.
George and I were just talking about this a little bit. I think maybe girls in this generation are becoming a little bit more sexually forward. I think it really, and maybe it's partially because of the increase in body sentiment and body comfortability that we're seeing. Maybe it's because we're having more open conversations about sexuality and sex in general. And I'd like to believe that the Call Her Daddy podcast is leading a generation of young women who are really good at giving head.
Yeah.
That's fucking
For sure.
gross.
Whoa.
This girl goes, she's like, oh, that's this. She goes, so you guys could just go fuck around. I go, no, that's pretty gross too.
It's fucked
It's
up.
gross, but you can't just like negate that it's fucking. Like if I was sitting there at my wedding day and they're like, dude, we just heard a story about your wife and she was in the bathroom and she sucked that dude to completion. I'd have been like, yo, we're done here. Like I'm not married.
Actually, you would do that?
100%.
I know some pretty raunchy sex stories about you. You think your wife would call marriage off?
Me and my girl do stuff together, but we're in a relationship. I think the sex can get wild and
No, I'm
intimate.
talking about
But like, bro,
raunchy.
you guys just met at a club and now
I'm
you're
talking about raunchy sex stories that don't involve your girlfriend. So, what I'm saying is, do you think she should break up with you because you had sex in that parking lot outside that conversation for the first time?
a key that could.
Don't even try it. Don't even try it.